What's up, everybody? Welcome back, Colliders, to another Halloween episode here of Worlds Collide. All month long, we're doing a lot of scary stuff here from Nightmare Files. Speaking of scary stuff, that's Miss Diva Talks. I am not so scary, baby Gemini, the kid JW here. She gonna say, hey, y'all. I'm gonna say, hey, y'all. Also, and then we go dive right into see what Nightmare Files is doing today. I try to keep a straight face.
Whatever.
Crazy eyes. He had the strangest eyes you ever seen. They were large, round, bugged out, and disturbing. They didn't look human. It was as if they belonged to some sort of exotic reptile, like a chameleon or a lizard. During class, he remained completely silent, never asking or answering any questions. I got the impression that the teachers were scared of him as well. All he did was stare at everyone with his bug-out eyes, creeping them all out with the unsettling gaze of his. One Monday morning, we had a media class. The teacher split us up into groups and gave us the task of making a short film. Due to the luck of the draw, Craig was assigned to our group. While we gathered around and discussed ideas, he kept his mouth tightly shut, and he just stared at all of us with his big-ass eyes. We eventually came up with an idea of a slasher movie. The plot involved a crazed killer who goes around the school stabbing people. Craig was so odd-looking that we all decided that he should play the killer. His crazy eyes made him the obvious choice.
Yeah.
As it turned out,
Way to typecast the kid.
I mean, we did the same thing.
I'm sure.
I was not
the movie was a huge
Right.
success. We managed to create a 5-minute film that looked almost as professional as a Hollywood horror flick. Surprisingly, Craig did a great job in his role as the killer. We shot hours of footage of him stalking the school grounds, running from tree to tree. He was armed with a fake knife that had a retractable blade. Then we filmed him stabbing a bunch of kids who were all playing victims. They were soaked from head to toe with fake blood. Taking part in the movie really seemed to bring Craig out of his shell. He took to acting like a fish to water. When filming was complete, we all noticed a big change in his personality. Somehow, it boosted his confidence, and although he still didn't talk very much.
You know, sometimes to save yourself, just being a nice kid to the crazy kid, to the weird crazy kid in school, make all the difference between you being
A hashtag?
yeah.
Hmm.
And they
He
did right.
held
They did right by inviting him in and making him feel good.
his head up high and seemed more sure of himself. On Friday, when we screened the film for the entire class, they loved it and started chanting Craig, Craig, Craig.
See?
That day, he was the most popular kid in the class, and he seemed to revel in the attention. However, when Monday morning arrived,
Back to reality.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Crazy Eyes Craig was nowhere to be seen. He didn't show up for school, and nobody seemed to know where he was. And for the rest of the week, he was absent from school. That weekend, I was at home working.
Now that just took a turn because I'm thinking he's going to come back to class and be treated like an outcast again.
Surprised he just didn't go to school. Shit. I got my confidence boosted up. I don't need this now. I'm feeling good about myself.
So,
Working on an assignment for school. I overheard a report on the news about an attempted murder that had happened in our town. Shocked, I glanced up from my work. When I set eyes on the picture they were showing on a TV screen, a chill ran down my spine. It was Craig. His humongous, crazy eyes stared at me from the TV screen as the news reporter continued with the story. Apparently, he had been stalking his next-door neighbor. She was a 16-year-old girl named Leanne. She, her younger sister, and her mother had been home alone while her father was away on business. The two girls stayed up late to watch a horror movie on TV. It was Nightmare on Elm Street. During the movie,
Classic.
they started
yes. Yes. One of my faves.
to notice something strange. They opened a box of cereal and took 2 bowls into the living room to eat. But when Leanne went back into the kitchen, she found that the box was empty. When the movie finished, the girls went upstairs to get ready for bed. Leanne opened her bedroom closet and found Craig standing there, holding a hatchet. He was dressed in her mother's clothes and had makeup smeared all over his face. He told her to be quiet and he tied her up. Then he fetched her mother and sister and marched them back into the bedroom. He tied them up as well, and he left all three lying on the floor. He told them he was going to kill them and he'd be right back, so they had better start praying. The police said he went downstairs and ransacked the house, and he stole valuables. When he was gone, the youngest girl managed to wiggle free. She jumped out of the window and ran to the nearby house. Within minutes, the police were breaking down the front door. They ran up the stairs with their guns drawn and found Leanne and her mother lying hogtied on the bedroom floor. There was no sign of Crazy Eyes Craig. The police freed the mother and the daughter before conducting a search of the entire house. They combed the place from top to bottom, but couldn't find any trace of Craig. It was as if he had vanished into the night. In fact, nobody had any idea where Craig was. And while he was still at large, no one in town could rest easy. The incident was a huge shock for our small town. Before that, it had been peaceful. Nobody ever locked their doors. And that night, I watched my father screwing 2 sturdy deadbolts onto our front and back doors. On Monday morning, it was the talk of the school. None of the kids could believe what had happened, and everyone was terrified. At the back of the school building, there was a huge forest, and rumors spread among the kids that Craig was hiding in the woods, lying in wait for more victims. Some kids were too scared to show up for class. Leanne and her family stayed with relatives for a few days to get away from the house. And all that time, law enforcement combed the woods and searched house to house. But nobody could find this crazy-eyed maniac. Eventually, Leanne and her family had to go home. As soon as they pulled into their driveway, they saw something that terrified them. Craig was standing at an upstairs window, gazing out at them with a smirk on his face. The girl's father started yelling. The neighbors came running over. The police were called, and within minutes, they were surrounding the house. A SWAT team were readying themselves beside a van, loading their weapons and studying the layout of the house. They searched the house from top to bottom, but they didn't find Craig anywhere. Instead, they were confronted by a disturbing scene. Pennies were glued to the ceiling. There was strange writing all over the walls. All of their clothes had been cut to shreds. The entire contents of the kitchen fridge were neatly arranged on the living room floor, and the whole place reeked of urine and feces. The police conducted another thorough search of the house, but it turned up nothing.
Yo, this story just got worse and worse and worse.
I mean, it ain't that bad. It ain't that bad. The last one was horrible.
Were about to give up and go home. One of the cops mentioned that he thought he had heard a faint noise when he was in the basement. He said it sounded like it was coming from behind a washing machine. The SWAT team immediately reorganized, and they descended cautiously into the basement. With their guns drawn, they pulled the washing machine away from the wall and curled up in the hole behind it. They found Craig. As it turned out, the truth was much more disturbing than anyone had imagined.
Could you imagine if that officer had not said anything?
Yes.
Leanne and her family were horrified. For 2 whole years, Craig had been living in their walls. They found peepholes everywhere. While Leanne and her family had been sitting at home, watching TV, eating dinner, taking a shower, getting dressed, and going to the toilet, and sleeping peacefully in their beds, Craig had been there the entire time, silently, watching them, with his crazy bugged-out eyes.
I want to know, one, how big were those walls when they be living between?
Right.
Because,
But on a serious note, as a homeowner, that right there is one of my greatest fears.
someone's going to be living behind your dryer or something?
Yeah. And doing shit in my house when I'm not there. Or watching me while I'm sleeping shit. Like that is literally top pure fear.
But again, how wide is these walls? This got to be one.
I don't know. They must have lived in a,
This got to be one of them old houses where the walls was like this wide and then it had gaps in between it or something. Because houses now, it's just literally wall in the room.
I feel you. So,
the only way you can probably peep in is from the attic looking down. But that's simple stuff. That's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, bug-eyed. But I gotta give a shout out though, because if it wasn't for the classmates for giving him that boost, who knows what would have happened? He might have went post-work to school. Catastrophe was avoided. You gotta take some of the good. Just saying.
As always, Colliders, if you enjoyed this reaction, go ahead and hit the like button. Share with someone you think would like it as well. If you want to check out Nightmare Files, his YouTube channel, all of his videos and all of his content, the link to his channel will be in the description below, along with where you can check out me and the official JW on our own YouTube channels. Anything else?
No.
Take the good with the, yeah. Bye, y'all.